GOP lawmakers held their own COVID-19 origins hearing today, and surprise, not one Democrat showed up. Republicans have been demanding Nancy Pelosi convene a bipartisan meeting on the matter, but are still waiting for answers and probably will be for a very long time. Joining us now, Kentucky Congressman James Comer. Thank you for joining us, Congressman. So you invite a bunch of Democrats. I also noted you invited one Dr. Anthony Fauci. Did he show up?
He did not show up. And I've been one of the Republicans that have been holding out prospects of his future. I wanted to give him an opportunity to come to Congress and testify and give his discrepancies as to why his emails were vastly different than what he's been telling the American public over the past year and a half, and hope that he would come and do just that, because Dr. Fauci never shied away from a camera prior to the release of his emails, and he never shied away from congressional testimony. Unfortunately, he did not show up today, and I'm pretty disappointed, and I'm going to join the bandwagon of most of my Republican colleagues in saying that it's time for Dr. Fauci to go and he should resign.
Yeah, I think one of your Kentucky Senator, Rand Paul, is also calling for Fauci to be removed if he won't resign. So tell us, you held a hearing, an origins hearing. I mean, clearly most of the public, I would think, believes that COVID originated in that lab, not necessarily out in the wet markets of China. What did you guys find out? What's the latest?
Well, the likelihood that it came from animals is almost zero. That was proven today. In fact, I didn't know that there have been over 80,000 animals tested, and not a single animal showed up positive with COVID-19. The only animals in the whole region of China that were not tested were the mice in the Wuhan lab. Now, you tell me why they wouldn't want to test the mice in the Wuhan lab. But this came from a lab. This was originated from the lab. The Wuhan lab is the only lab within 1,000 miles that did that type of gain-of-function research. And they used mice. Ironically, they wouldn't let anyone test the mice there. So I think that it's pretty safe to conclude that this originated in the Wuhan lab. China has lied about it. The World Health Organization has complied with China's lies. And as a result, millions of people worldwide have died. Yeah,
and very quickly, sir, I only have about a half a minute or so. Even if it did originate within an animal to human jump, did you agree? Did you find out? Can we agree that at one point it was accelerated in this lab?
We can agree it was accelerated in this lab, and we had four really sharp experts. I encouraged all of America to watch the tape of that hearing. It was 2 hours, and they gave more information. No one was on a time clock. It was just factual information with charts, with the experts in the field. And I think that now the next step is to try to make sure that this doesn't happen again, and then to try to obviously hold China accountable.
Bingo. Bingo. That's the one I'm looking for. Congressman, really appreciate your time. Congressman James Comer of Kentucky, thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, to talk more on this topic, we're joined now by former White House Trade Advisor Peter Navarro. Peter, very importantly, thank you for joining us. China deleted some data recently. What do you know about that? What do you think it was all about?
It's part of the cover-up. And by the way, Eric, great to see you flying Newsmax colors. You look marvelous tonight.
Thank you.
Here's the thing. There was a cover-up by the Chinese. If I, in the White House, had that genetic data at the time, we could have saved hundreds and hundreds of thousands of lives in the United States and perhaps millions worldwide. So they intentionally hid that sequence because they knew that that sequence would look exactly what it was, which is a genetically engineered virus. And Fauci, Tony Fauci, is part of the cover-up because he knew that that came from the lab. And if he had simply told the president what he knew when he knew it in January of 2020, Donald J. Trump would have demanded from the Chinese to release that genetic data.
Peter, we had this, and we now know, this former CDC director said that he thought that the COVID virus leaked from China as far back as September or October of 2019, a clear 5 months before anyone here or any Fauci or anyone said, hey, this is going to be a problem. How many lives could have been saved had Trump put his travel ban on anyone from Wuhan, China 5 months prior?
We could have contained the virus in Wuhan instead of having a global pandemic. And that's really the tragedy here. And what the timeline is pretty simple. In 2017, Tony Fauci basically went behind the president's back to restore this gain of function experiments. Eric, that's what created the deadly virus, right? And American taxpayers through Fauci paid for that. Yeah. And so there was an arc of time there. And if we had just known this, Eric, I just want to say this again, hundreds of thousands of people would be alive today. Maybe who's watching your daughter, your father, your grandfather. That's on the Chinese Communist Party, and it's on Tony Fauci.
This country lost 600,000 people. We spent trillions. We're still going to be spending trillions of dollars cleaning up China's mess. Here, very quickly, about half a minute or so, Peter. It's a big topic for 30, 45 seconds. How do we hold China accountable financially?
When I was in the White House, I have a presidential commission executive order that would have got to the origins and costs. That order should be done either at the White House or Congress to hold them accountable, find out where it came from. My estimates are $20 trillion at a minimum they owe us. $20 trillion, Eric. We should collect that money forthwith.
Trump says 10 trillion. You're saying 20 trillion. Peter,
yeah, Boss should have talked to me before he went out with that, because that's what I would have done in the Oval. I would have run him down that whole thing, and just a loss of human life in and of itself approaches 10 trillion. We can do that in another time, but I'm telling you, it's a big ticket. We need that money, and Tony Fauci needs to be fired. But behind me is the Wuhan lab, but physically Capitol Hill he needs to be sitting in the hot seat, Eric, answering to the American people why he covered up his role in this pandemic.
We'll bring you back, Peter, and when we do, we're going to go through line by line how we can hold them accountable financially. I want to talk about the money we owe them. I want to talk about trade. We'll do that next time. Former White House trade advisor Peter Navarro, thank you very much.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.